Imagine there is an archer who is shooting arrows and he has 100 arrows in his arsenal. And the problem is he doesn't have any kind of target. It doesn't matter how many arrows he has or how much experience the archer has. It doesn't matter unless he has a specific point to aim and shoot. In the similar way, if we don't have a certain aim, a specific goal in our lives, then even if we have a lot of money, resources, materialistic resources, those those stuff, those things will not matter unless we can use them to achieve a specific purpose or to achieve a specific goals in our lives. In the similar way, we need to be precise and selective about the type of goals we are aiming at. In our daily lives, we have limited number of arrows or let's say resources. So we need to be selective about the type of goals we are picking, especially during the early stages of your life when you have less resources, or even in any stage of your life when the resources are low. You need to be especially selective about the type of goals you choose, and you need to be focused, and you need to spend most of your quality time, attention, and resources on that specific goals. And to achieve that specific aim, you need to develop yourself into focused and into becoming a kind of a person who is so focused on his goals that he can achieve them in his lifetime. In the similar way, how many goals we have doesn't matter unless they are clearly defined and they have a deeper purpose in it. Let's say you have a goal of earning $1 million or even $1 billion or more. It doesn't matter, or that money will be worthless unless you know what to do with that money when you get it. Will you use it to purchase a land, home, property, or will you use it for any kind of medical expenses, or even for marriage, for kids? You need to have a clear goal and specific plan of actions for you to make sure that your money and your resources are spent on the correct things in your life. In the similar way, you have something. Even if you don't have that kind of money, resources, connections with certain people, even if you have nothing right now, you have something, and that is your mind and your desire and your willpower. And even if you don't have anything, but if you have a specific and a defined purpose in your life, then you can move mountains. The important thing is the fire within you and how much that fire is burning. In other words, you need to be constantly motivated and constantly be enthusiastic about the daily actions you need to take regularly, so that even if when things get boring or even if there are no results coming in your way, you won't give up. In other words, you need to be consistent. Now coming to the main point, end game planning. In other words, you need to have a clear picture of what your end game looks like. Let's imagine there is a sports game or even a sports World Cup that has been hosted in a certain country, and certain group of countries, let's say 10 countries have come to that certain country and are playing each other to win that specific title. In this instance, winning the World Cup is a goal the 10 teams are aiming for. In the similar way, be you need to become the type of person who has specific goals and a specific end game. In the World Cup, the teams are playing league matches, and the winning the league matches doesn't matter if you don't win the World Cup. However, to win the World Cup, you need to first win the league matches, semi-finals, quarter-finals. In the similar way, you, to achieve that big goal or even to eat that bigger elephant, you need to break down the larger goal into small chunks so that instead of eating the elephant as a whole, you are taking small bites and small chunks regularly, which which is helping you to move closer towards your goals. And the important point is to do not stop your progress. It doesn't matter if you are walking slowly or even jogging or even just moving very slowly every day. The moving fastly is like a bonus point. However, the important thing is to do not stop your momentum and do not stop your progress. Do everything you can each and every day in an ethical way to achieve your desired results and your focus, and to achieve that specific goals or even your end game. You need to be selective and you need to know yourself, know your core values, know your core beliefs, know your core identity, so that you have a clear picture about yourself. You need to know yourself, know thyself, so that you can choose what you want out of this life. Or even if you want to enjoy the materialistic things, or even if you want to develop spiritually, or even if you want to give something to the society, or even if you want to serve the humanity, you need to be clear and you need to be precise about that specific goals, because it is something you are doing for long term. So the closer the goals are for your identity, the closer it aligns with your personality, the closer it will be more easier. It will be harder, but it will be more bearable when you have set the goals which you really want to achieve. In other words, to strive for greatness, you need to pick the goals which you really want, which you really need. In other words, you need to have that certain kind of fire within your eyes, which is constantly burning, constantly pushing you towards achieving that greatness. And to achieve that greatness, you need to start somewhere. And that starting point needs to be right now. Because the past has gone. You can't bring back the time that has been lost. And the future is uncertain. You can plan for it, but you can't exactly know what will happen in the future. What you have right now is the present moment. You need to have a clear goal, and you need to create a certain rough sketch or even a rough draft for your future version, and you need to do everything you can ethically and morally, which you need to do right now, which will help you to place yourself in a certain position in the coming future. In other words, you need to be responsible about your own fate, and don't throw it to circumstances or even to helpful or supportive environment or even to certain stars alignment that I am born in this date, the stars are not with me or the gods are not with me. You need to go beyond that beliefs, and you need to have absolute clarity and absolute belief within yourself. Because even if you have everything you need to achieve that certain goal, your inner world and your inner self needs to be so strong. You need to conquer your inner self, before you're conquering the external world. You need to overcome your desires, you need to overcome your negative habits, negative thoughts before going for that goals, because nothing external will satisfy you or even will create your ideal reality unless your internal is aligned with your self. In other words, you have senses, you can see, you can hear, you can speak, you can listen, or any kind of, you have five senses. You need to have absolute control over these five senses, and you need to have a desire, and you need to have self control over the things you see, the things you listen, the words you speak, the type of food you eat, the type of habits you have, and you need to be disciplined enough before striving for greatness. In other words, you need to become worthy, and to become worthy, you need to take those harder choices, and you need to be disciplined, and you need to take action even if you don't feel like doing them. And when you have that kind of self control and self mastery, and you have a specific set of goals for you to achieve, and you have a clear picture of your long term priorities which aligns with your core beliefs and your identity, and you have a clear conscience, you have a clear set of rules, moral values for you to follow, and you have a clear ethics and boundaries, then you can have that certain goals, and you absolutely need to know when to stop. Instead of overachieving for that stuff, you need to have a clear end point so that you can tell to yourself that this is my end goal, and after achieving that end goal, I'm going to stop, and I am going to stop, or I am going to do other things. If you have some kind of that end goal, like, there are two types of games in our life. The one is infinite game, and the second one is finite game. In life our life is kind of a infinite game, or even a kind of a finite game. In this infinite game, there will be a lot of finite games, and our life is kind of a finite game when coming to the bigger picture. Like, we have a soul, we can travel, or we have multiple lifetimes. In this infinite game, our finite game is kind of the way we see ourselves, and the moment we take birth in this human body and the moment we leave this human body, between the time is your finite game. And to win in this finite game, you need to have a clear goal from which that you can absolutely know that you have used your life wisely.